What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today we are installing the JQ Werks steering wheel in my E92 M3. This is one that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. It is going to drastically change the driving experience of this car, and I'm going to show you guys how to install it on the E92 M3. It's pretty simple. A few weeks back we installed this wheel on my buddy's F87 M2 and I fell in love with it. I knew I needed one right away. Reached out to the guys over at JQ Werks and they sent one out, and so here we are today. Everything you guys see in this video will be linked down in the description, but let's go ahead and get into the install. All right, so to show you guys what we have here, this is the actual JQ Werks Mad Trace steering wheel assembly. Now this entire kit is plug and play. That means you don't need to code anything, you don't need to splice any wires. It's very, very easy to install, which is what I absolutely love about this setup. You can also purchase the steering wheel of your choosing. I went with the Momo steering wheel. This is the Mod 69 suede wheel, and it is a 350 millimeter. So on the F87 M2 that we installed this steering wheel in, he had, I believe it was a 330 or a 320 millimeter steering wheel. It was just a bit small for my liking and I wanted something a little bit better, so I found this one by Momo. This one is also a little bit thicker than some of the other ones that I saw. I knew I wanted a larger wheel and I knew I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, so this turned out to be perfect. You can also change these out. They're only like a couple $100 to get yourself a new wheel, but they have like leather, they have different shapes, different sizes. I see that a lot of people who go for the smaller wheels typically wish that they went for a bit larger of a wheel. To give you guys an example, this is 350 millimeters. It's just a hair smaller than the factory E92 M3 wheel. So it's not going to change it that much in terms of what the steering wheel feels like. Of course, the material is different, but the size isn't too drastically different. So I think that this is going to fit really well in this car with this setup. As far as the actual install process, it's relatively the same depending on which model you get for which car. So you have this connector and this cable right here, which is basically a resistor for the airbag. Yes, you guys, this deletes the airbag. I know some of you guys are going to freak out about that. Technically, this steering wheel is only to be used on track or off-road use only, but if you're putting this in like your daily driver, it's probably not the best idea. This car, however, has been slowly turning into just basically my weekend fun car slash track toy. At least that's what we're building it up for. Right now in the steering wheel, I have a factory steering wheel that was custom built, just has leather on the side, Alcantara on top and bottom. Nothing really wrong with this wheel. I just wanted something a bit more aggressive. I really like the JQ Werks steering wheels. I just think these look super race car, super badass, and I want to get one for the E82 135 as well. Nonetheless, that is enough yapping. Let's get into the install. The first thing we need to do is disconnect the battery. It's going to be a 10 millimeter right down here in the corner. All right, so next step is to remove the actual airbag from the wheel. So in order to do this, there are a couple of spots on the back of the steering wheel itself. There's two pins that come out of the airbag, go into the actual back of the steering wheel, and then two clips that hold those pins in. I like to use a Torx screwdriver just because it has more of a blunt tip, and we're basically just gonna be moving that clip over to release the airbag. One side out. All right, so go ahead and pull that airbag out, and on the back you have a couple of connections that are in the back of the airbag. Just take a flathead under here, pop up, flathead here, pop up, and both of these should just pull out like that. You set the airbag aside, we don't need that. On the inside of the wheel, you'll have a couple of connections, and you can just go ahead and pull those out. So next we have a 16 millimeter bolt that is holding on the steering wheel. You can go ahead and take that off. This is torqued down to 45 foot-pounds of torque, so it is a bit of force. There you go. And now we can remove our old steering wheel. Make sure that you guys don't touch the clock spring, don't spin it. Try to keep this in place and not mess with it. You can damage things in the steering column and the electronics if you do that. And also, before you do any of this, make sure that your steering wheel is in fact straight at 12 o'clock, dead center. All right, so for this next part, you guys, we're gonna be removing the steering column plastic covers, top and bottom. In order to do so, we need to split this right here. There are plastic clips on the inside, so this is what we're focusing on removing. The best way to do this is to try and use a combination of trim tool and pick so you can get at the inside of the clip back here. This seems to be the best way to do it in my opinion. So these two clips back here on the side, you should pull them out and you can move the whole thing down, and that will give you access to the lower part of the column. So this piece will just come right out. So the first order of business is to release these clips up top, and then you're trying to release these clips from the bottom. Whole thing should just drop right out. All right, so now we are looking at the right side of the steering column, and we have a couple of plugs on this side. The top plug is the plug that we are going to be dealing with right here. It's a black plug, and we should be able to just remove that like so. And so basically we are taking our plug right here. We're gonna plug that in like this. And you may be wondering what these wires right here are for. These are called the free to use wires. So if you wanted to wire this steering wheel up to have custom functionality, like let's say you were running a multi-map tune, you could wire in like different maps on the steering wheel to activate those tunes or any other auxiliary functions. You can do so through these wires. We are not gonna be utilizing any of this, so we do not need to mess with it. We are just gonna go ahead and take the other side of the plug, connect it back up to the steering column where the factory harness is, like so. Now what you want to do is tuck this away underneath the steering column so it doesn't get in the way of that plastic piece. There's actually like a little spot for it right underneath. It's kind of perfect. And then we'll take these wires, just sort of tuck them in here and hide them. Doesn't need to be the prettiest thing in the world. Nobody is ever going to see these. Just want to make sure that they're not getting pinched or anything weird like that. And this is what allows this system to be a plug-and-play system. It is truly awesome to just have it this simple. All right, so now we can go ahead and put this piece back on. Reconnect the top. All right. Back in business. All right, so now it is time to install our decals onto the steering wheel. Now last time on my buddy's F87, we did the white ones. I'm gonna go with the black ones. That means that everything that is white is going to be shining through as light versus the entire button shining through as light with just the black part being the number or the function. If we don't like it, we can always change it out, but let's do the black for this setup. Now, how do we figure out which buttons go where? If you look in the manual, you will see that everything is laid out right here. Tells you exactly which number should be which button. So let's go ahead and throw those on. These two at the top are those free to use buttons. So obviously nothing will be there unless I just decide to put a random sticker there, but we can decide what we want that to be a little bit later. Having a tweezers is going to make your life a lot easier when you are doing this. All right, all my buttons are on. I just put these two right here for now, even though these are free to use areas. I would like to convert this button to the DSC off button. In other words, traction control off. And this one, I just put a dummy decal there for right now. I just don't want a bunch of light shining through there with nothing. So other than that, we are good to go. Let's go ahead and throw the hub assembly portion in the car, and then we can go ahead and install the actual steering wheel. All right, so for this part of the install, on the inside of this piece that they supply for you, there is a little notch that will line up with the notch on the steering column. We're just gonna lay that in there, make sure that everything lines up perfectly. Now, before we actually throw in this steering wheel bolt, the 16mm that we removed, I like to install the plugs right here. And the reason that I do this is because I find it's a little bit easier when you have room to maneuver this in and out to get the plugs into the connections in the back of the hub. It's kind of hard to do this with the bolt already in here because it's very, very tight in order to get your fingers in there. You might be able to do it a different way, but this is the way that I like to do it. What I actually do is just remove this piece, take this part, put it through here. We're not lining anything up yet. I'll take our connectors and feed them through the other side. So this way, I can go ahead and connect everything and put the wheel on. And then once you verify that this is all straight, we can go ahead and move this to the side, throw back in our steering wheel bolt. Some of you will like to use Loctite to put this back in. Some people will say this is a one-time use thing. Do whatever makes you comfortable. 16mm goes back in. This is being torqued down to 45 foot-pounds of torque. One nice little tool that they include is a counter hold piece that they made. And all we're gonna do with this is take out two of the little hardware pieces that they send to you, connect it right here on the side. Not even gonna tighten it down all the way, don't have to. That way, when you go to torque this, you have something with some leverage. Super awesome that they include that. I love that. It's all about the details. Kind of nice to have everything just thought out for you when you install this. All right, so we can go ahead and throw this portion on here. You want to make sure that the orientation looks like an N and the flat part is on the bottom. That is what is going to dictate how the steering wheel fits onto the car. Go ahead and line this up. Now when putting this portion on, you're going to be using the smaller supplied hardware, and these are going to be T25s. And then we can go ahead and tighten these down. It's not going to take much. All right, we're good there. So now we can go ahead and assemble the wheel. All right, so when you guys are putting on the wheel, it's going to be the same T25s. However, these ones are the longer ones. Literally just going to line up our Momo wheel. And you guys can do any of this in a different order if you prefer. Put the decals on in the car or whatever you want to do. This just seems to be the easiest method for me. Oh, so clean, man. Time to go ahead and install the steering wheel. This is the quick release portion in the back. So when you want to remove it, obviously you just pull. You can see the locking pins back here, and you can also see the electronic portion that connects to our hub, which allows this to communicate with the car. That's simple to install. Super, super nice. I make some adjustments here. Push this back in a little bit. Oh man, this is sick. This changes the dynamics of this car by a lot. Completely different feeling car. Now the steering wheel is a little bit smaller than factory, like I said, but it's not too much smaller, so it feels really, really nice. Loving the way that this fits in here. Love the all black. Even with the Momo, I don't hate the Momo wheel. I think it looks really good in this. Pull it off. It's probably the best way to make sure that no one is ever gonna steal your car. But yeah, this is such a good setup. Got all of our buttons here. All of these buttons feel so high quality too. Audible clicks. Feels so good. Even the suede of the Momo wheel feels really nice, very grippy. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and grab like a leather wheel if this is going to be more of a daily driver car. A leather wheel obviously wouldn't wear as fast as a suede wheel. This is going to be great for track, but a leather wheel would be much better for just like street driving. So I might actually go ahead and pick up a leather wheel as well. Probably the same size. I feel like the 350mm is perfect for these cars. The 330s and the 300s just felt way too small to me. It almost felt like a sim wheel, and that I definitely did not want that. This feels a lot better. So one thing to point out is that this wheel is definitely going to come out further, so your turn signal stalk is going to be a little bit further away. That's something that you do need to know before buying one of these. However, you could, if you wanted to, change your free to use buttons as your turn signals. That's something that I did consider before. However, I would like this button right here to be traction control off. And then this one, we can decide later what we want to do with that. But let's go ahead and reconnect the battery and see if we have any errors on the dash. Make sure that everything works, horn is good, and that the steering wheel functions as planned. Paired with the Recaros in this car, so good. All right, let's go ahead and fire it up. Need gas. Usual thing with these cars. Sweet. No errors, no issues. Button works. 2 horns. Might be a little excessive. Volume works. Looks like everything works. This thing feels so good in here. Might lower it just a little bit. Like right there. Yeah, this wheel feels amazing in this car. With these seats, they're a lot lower in the car, your seating position is. So it's nice to have a steering wheel that comes out a little bit further, closer towards you. You're not extending as far. This feels very natural in this position. It's super, super nice. Steering wheel feels great. The illumination and everything looks really, really nice in the car. Buttons feel good. The size of the wheel, I think, is perfect. But yeah, I am super happy with this. There's only one thing left to do. Let's take this car out for a drive. All right, car isn't even warmed up yet, so that's how you know it's legit first reaction. Just pulling out of the house, man. This thing feels awesome. Loving this wheel. The size is literally perfect. Highly recommend you guys entertain the 350 mil. I'm telling you. I just went for the turn signal. That's the one part that you got to get used to with this wheel. This signal is pretty far out in front, so you'll be swiping for it and it's not there. Man, it legit feels like a race car. I love how much closer this is. It's just so much easier and like so much more relaxed when I'm driving the car. This thing is sick, dude. Super, super cool. Definitely had to play with the height and everything a little bit. Still kind of getting used to that. It's crazy going from the wagon to this car, man. It feels like I'm driving a freaking Bugatti when I go to this car from the wagon. It's so interesting with a smaller wheel like this because the input, the turn input, the steering input that you need to put into the car is so much less, and you get so much more out of the actual turning radius. It's pretty crazy. You have to get used to it. It's different. This thing's crazy, man. This car is just nuts. Like it legit feels like a little race car. Oh man, I cannot wait to get this thing out on track. Ooh, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's really nice having this wheel closer. It's just such a better setup. I was stretching a little bit with the old one. Yeah, this is an awesome setup, dude. Love what these guys have done with this steering wheel setup. It just makes complete sense. The fact that everything is like right here, it's still totally functional. You have everything that you originally had on your other steering wheel, well, minus the airbag. It's pretty cool, man. Plug and play. It's that simple. So good with this wheel. Yep, this is definitely what this car was missing, man. This is probably the best interior upgrade that you could make to this car. I mean, the seats are pretty incredible as well. I really like these Sportsters, but I would like to buy another pair of pole positions like I have in the 1 Series. I think the pole positions just feel better, to be honest with you. I do like these, like they're comfortable, they're really nice seats. There's nothing wrong with the Sportsters, but the bolstering that you get out of the poles, man, it's just, it's undefeated. Like those seats are just incredible. But besides having those seats, this steering wheel is easily my favorite interior modification that I've done to this car. Like it just completely changes the way that this car feels, the way that it drives. It's a lot of impact for a little bit of money, in my opinion. And the fact that it's so easy to install, I mean, without filming, you could get this installed in less than a half an hour. So the only thing that I would like to do is figure out the free to use stuff, try to wire up the DSC, the traction control off. I think that that would be like a really nice, useful function to have with this wheel. And then figure out what I want to do with this one over here. Whether I want to do like a cruise control setup or something like that. Obviously that's an option as well. God, dude, this car just feels amazing. Whew. Every time I drive this car, man. It's the best thing about having the E39 wagon is that I don't drive this car as much anymore. So every time I come back to it, dude, I have so much love and appreciation for this car. You kind of get used to it when you daily it and you forget how absolutely incredible of a car the E92 M3 is. But when I got the wagon, you know, I hadn't driven the thing for over a week. And I got back in the M3 last weekend and I was just like, oh my God, this car is just nuts, dude. It's such an incredible car. Every time I get in it and I drive it, I just can't like stop talking about how incredible it is because it's just my favorite car I've ever owned, man. Like the E92 M3 is just, oh, unmatched. Too good. Well, you guys, that is going to conclude this one. Could not recommend this wheel enough. I think it worked out really good in this car. Honestly, just fits the entire build super, super well. Extremely pleased with the way that this car has turned out. You know, it's definitely a bucket list car for me, a bucket list build for me. The way that I've built this thing is just exactly the spec that I wanted to build. And I don't know that there's really much else that I would add to it. It's mechanically super well sorted out. I think drives phenomenally well. From here on out, I think all we need to do is just enjoy this car and put it through the paces, take it on the track, put it in the mountains, and really drive this thing the way that it's meant to be driven. Big shout out to the guys over at JQ Werks for sending out this wheel. Super, super happy with it. As I'm sure you guys can tell, install is very easy. Any of you guys can do this at home. They make a bunch of different wheels for E Series, F Series, and G Series cars. But like I said, I'll have everything linked down below for you guys. If you're interested in some merch, I'll have that link down below as well. But as always, I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.